Today, we are diving into a document that's part personal diary, part legal testament, and honestly, one of the most important tools we have for protecting our oceans. It's called a ship's oil record book. So let me ask you a question. Picture this massive 900-foot container ship, hundreds of miles from anywhere. It's basically a floating city, a floating industrial complex. How in the world do you keep track of every single drop of oil and oily waste to make sure it's not just getting dumped into the ocean? It's a huge challenge, right? A staggering problem of accountability.
Well, the answer isn't some fancy high-tech satellite system or anything like that. Nope. It's a simple but meticulously kept logbook. You can really just think of it as a ship's mandatory oil diary.
Okay, so what is it, officially? It's the oil record book. And this isn't just some friendly suggestion from the captain. It is a legally required log, and it's mandated by an international treaty called MARPOL. Every single movement of oil or oily water, from the moment it's created to the moment it's disposed of, has to be written down right here.
Let's break down a real entry so you can see what I mean. On November 11, 2011, we see code C. That just means collection of oil residues. The item numbers tell us exactly where, the sludge tank. We can see its total capacity is 5 cubic meters, and at that moment, it held 3.5. But here's the most important part. Every entry is signed by the officer in charge. In this case, Second Engineer D.S. Lee. This isn't anonymous, it is personal accountability.
So where does all this oily gunk even come from? You might think it's just from the main engine, but it's way more than that.
Honestly, it comes from all over the ship. You've got routine generator maintenance, small but steady leaks from hydraulic pipes, residue from cleaning the engine's air coolers, and get this, even the used cooking oil from the ship's kitchen, the galley, has to be accounted for. Every single drop is collected and logged.
And this just shows you the incredible level of detail we're talking about. This number, 0.12 cubic meters, it's not just some rough estimate. The logbook tells its whole story. It came from a hydraulic pipe on a hatch cover that sprang a leak. The crew collected every bit of that spill in drums and then logged its transfer into the oily bilge tank. Or how about this tiny amount? Just 0.06 cubic meters. You might wonder where that came from? Well, the log tells us it was used cooking oil from the galley, all carefully collected and transferred over on September 22nd. It just proves that no amount is too small, nothing escapes this paper trail. All right, so the crew is collecting all this oily waste, and the tanks are starting to fill up. You obviously can't just keep it on board forever. So what are the strictly legal ways to actually get rid of it?
There are basically 3 approved methods, and there's a clear hierarchy. The number 1, best option, is to pump the waste off the ship to a special reception facility when you're in port. The second best option is to burn it in the ship's own high-temperature incinerator. And the final, and by far most heavily regulated method, is to process the oily water through a sophisticated filter system and discharge only the clean water back into the sea.
And here is a textbook example of that first, most preferred method. The log states it plain as day. On January 1st, 2009, 14 cubic meters of sludge were safely pumped off to a reception facility in the port of Busan, Korea. Clear, simple, totally legal.
Now here's the second method in action. The log shows that 0.45 cubic meters of waste oil were incinerated. But look at the extra detail here. It records the exact duration, a full 8-hour shift, from 9 in the morning until 5 at night. That is the level of documentation we're talking about.
Of course, a ship's life isn't always about routine procedures. The sea is unpredictable. Accidents happen, and the oil record book is designed to document those moments too. So the book has specific codes for when things go sideways. You have your code F, which is for a minor issue, like equipment failure. For example, a broken fuse on the oily water separator's control board was found and repaired. But then there's code G, and that's for something much, much more serious. An accidental or exceptional discharge of oil, like if a fuel tank ruptures after the ship runs aground.
And this is an actual code G entry from a ship in crisis. It is absolutely chilling to read. My vessel was grounded in the Kanmon Straits this evening and sustained some holes under the waterline. That one sentence, logged by an engineer, is the official start of a major maritime incident.
So, after seeing all these details, the routine and the dramatic, it really begs the question, why is this humble paper trail so incredibly powerful? Because here's the kicker. This book creates an unbreakable chain of evidence. It's not just for the crew's benefit, it's for law enforcement. When a ship pulls into any port in the world, inspectors from what's called Port State Control can come on board and demand to see this book.
They use it to conduct a full audit, making sure every single liter of oil is accounted for and that the ship is following international law to the letter.
But what happens if someone just makes a mistake? You know, you're human. Well, you can't just go back and scribble in a forgotten entry. The system is designed for total transparency. In this case, an officer realized on November 14th that he'd forgotten to log a fueling operation from 3 days earlier. So first, he had to make a special entry with the current date, explaining that he was recording a missed operation. Only then could he add the original entry, backdating it to the 11th, but signing it with the current date of the 14th. It's a system that values honesty over perfection. When you step back, the oil record book is this incredible system of checks and balances. It's a quiet guardian of our oceans, powered by nothing more than pen, paper, and personal responsibility. And this simple paper logbook, it points to a much bigger idea. Our entire modern world runs on countless invisible rulebooks just like this one. It's this hidden layer of order that just keeps things from falling apart, which really makes you wonder, what other ones are out there, silently